Awesome. Thank you very much. Hey, folks, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Nisarg Desai. I'm your host for the evening. And this is our June 11th webinar from Products That Count. I am the head of Boston chapter here for PTC. I do this every month. If you are coming for the first time, welcome. If you've seen one of these before, welcome back. Thank you so much for watching this. We have a super interesting topic for our webinar today. But before we jump into that, let me do a quick intro for myself. My name is Nisarg Desai. I'm the director of product at Huntress. You can see the background that I'm using. So I'm using my corporate background for this one. And we are the cybersecurity company for everyone. We protect businesses, small businesses, large businesses from hackers. A very mission-driven company, and super happy to be here. But that's my day job. Right now, I am wearing my evening hat as head of chapter for Boston at Products That Count. We have lots of different topics that we cover on these webinars. We have in-depth technical topics. We have topics around product management, education, advancement, lots of different ones. But today's topic is one of the most commonly, frequently asked questions that I get as a product leader in tech. And that is, we have PMs, then we have good PMs, and then we have great PMs. And what separates the PMs from the good PMs from the great PMs? What's that thing, that extra step, that extra impact, that flywheel that the great PMs have that good PMs don't? And how do I become a great PM? So if there's anything that I want to take away, I want you to take away from this session is, what is it that you can do to become a great PM? There's lots of different things we can do. And I'm super excited. I have a really awesome guest today that I will introduce to you in just a second. Before I do that, like all other webinars, this one, if you're joining us live, please use the Q&A function to send us questions. Please make this interactive. Please pause us, send us those questions. We'd love to answer those for you. If you are watching this in the future, so this is June at 6:30 p.m. on the East Coast in beautiful sunny Boston today. If you're watching this in the future on YouTube or some other forum, I'm sure both myself and my guests, we'd be happy to answer questions if you send them to us over LinkedIn. So please send us questions right now or in the future. But without further ado, let me introduce our guest. I'm super happy that not only do we have a great topic, but a great guest as well. So our guest today is going to be Tapan Kamdar. He is the Senior Director of Product at Mozilla. I'm going to have him introduce himself in just a minute. He's done, as you'll see, a whole range of very interesting, very senior product leadership roles. And I think it's an awesome chance for me as well to learn, what is that extra thing that would separate me and help me boost my career, boost my PM journey, help me take that next step as I go forward. So let me turn this over to Tapan. Tapan, if you can please introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about you, your background, and then I have a couple of questions for you to get started with. Over to you.
Thank you. Hey, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. A huge thank you first to Products That Count and Nisarg for hosting me today. But I've been a product leader for over 2 decades now, and I've worked across AI, search, productivity, and consumer experiences across my different roles. Today, I'm a product leader at Mozilla. I've been a product leader at Meta, GoDaddy, and a bunch of other companies. I've constantly driven these consumer transformational initiatives by doing 2 things: combining deep technical intuition with storytelling and strategy. My mission has always been to empower individuals and businesses and help them unlock outcomes which they are looking to drive. And I'm hoping today our conversation lights a spark in each and every one of you and unlocks something meaningful inside you. And that becomes a catalyst for your growth, because that is what all of us are here to understand is, and how can I learn from someone who's done this? And how can I learn to do what I think I can without increasing my error rate and become the person I intend to be? And I hope our conversation today helps you, nudge you in that direction at least one step today.
That is awesome, Tapan. Thank you so much for that. I love to dive deeper and learn more about your background. But before we do there, why this topic? Why is this the one you chose among so many different ones for the webinar today?
Like over the arc of my career, I have managed teams of PMs, managers of PMs, and influenced and worked cross-functionally with a lot of PMs and cross-functional partners. I've seen good PMs with great ideas struggle to drive impact, not because they lacked skill, but because they lacked clarity, they lacked energy, they lacked trust of the team. I've learned that great PMs are not identified as the ones who just ship things. They're the ones who drive that shift in momentum. They're the ones who earn belief. They're the ones who lead without needing the mic in their hand. And this topic matters to me very much because when I've helped PMs on my teams or someone I help mentor level up by helping them how they think, how they act, how they communicate, everything around them levels up. So to me, unlocking that glue, that role which product managers play, is pivotal in terms of unlocking the potential of the entire team, the product, the organization, and in general, our communities as a whole. So it is a selfless thing to help people unlock that potential in them. And to me, it gives me immense joy when I'm able to help someone realize their potential.
That is awesome. Thank you for that, Tapan. Before I ask you to share, we have a whole bunch of people who are joining us live. So thank you for joining. If you have questions, please send them to us with a Q&A. So we'd love to answer those live and during the presentation. We can't chat with you. Raising hands would help. So please use the Q&A function built into Zoom. So let's get into what makes a great PM. Tapan, why don't you go ahead, share the screen. Tell us about a little bit about your PM journey, and then I'd love to dive deeper with you into, your take, your learnings, and your frameworks on
Yep.
what makes a good PM.
So before I get started with sharing my journey as well as the content I put together, I would love to start with saying three things. One is the further you grow, the further your next destination is going to be. So you need to fall in love with the journey, not the finish line. And your energy is going to be the one which sustains your momentum. The second thing is you have to be a very honest user of what you build, and you have to learn from what others build. That's how you sharpen your craft. That's how you sharpen your taste. And that clarity will come from that experience, but also from that honest reflection and unbiased observation. And third but not least is, as a PM, your job is not to have all the answers. Your job is to stay curious, stay grounded, and keep leveling up. You're going to build trust through humility and consistency. You're not going to build trust using your volume. So these are three things which, over the years, I have collected as my personal epithets in terms of what a leader told me at one point in time in my career. And it stuck and it became a part of why I do what I do and how I grew. So I always share these, even if you didn't ask me to share with anyone, because these are things which have been the cornerstone or been the foundation of how I have thought of my job and my role. And that is what I'm sharing with you. And what I'll talk to you more in details is going to be probably an expansion on all of that.
That is so fascinating. I love those, especially the first one. I have a slightly different version of the same one, which is PM careers are nonlinear. And lots of other careers, it's a clear stepping stone. You do one, you do two, you do three, you move up the ranks. PM's careers are more zigzaggy, and you also sometimes change functions. But the one thing that stuck with me that I've learned over time is as you rise up the ladder, the problems you are solving are inherently more difficult, more complex, and bigger. And therefore, the by the time you solve the problem takes much longer, and the outcomes you achieve are not measured in days and weeks, they're measured in months and sometimes years. And therefore, like you said, love the journey, love what you're doing today, not what, you might get at some point in your time, because as you go up, it'll be so much longer for you, because of problems. It's not that you are slowing down. You're solving inherently more complex things and you're being rewarded for that, but that does take longer.
Spot on. I'm gonna share my screen and share the content. Can you confirm that you can see my screen?
I can absolutely see the big shipping container. Uh, I could, and then something you
Hold on.
changed. Or I can still see it. It's a little, yep,
Can you
that
see?
is perfect.
Okay, awesome, cool. So,
Nope, nope, I lost you there. Something changed and I can only see half the screen now.
oh,
Okay, that's perfect. I don't know if
okay,
it's lagging or maybe just
possibly lag. So hold on, let me.
yeah, I can see the whole screen now, so we're good.
Okay, you can see the whole screen, right?
Yeah,
You can see the whole presentation.
I can see the right slides. Yep, they're
Okay,
good.
perfect, cool. So, welcome everyone. I'm really excited to be here today. As I said, look, I've built like experiences which have touched billions of users. But honestly, I'm just a guy who sees product management as storytelling, a story which has a lot of potential. And today I want to help unlock that next version of yourselves by sharing what I've learned over the years from amazing leaders, peers, and my personal experiences all put together. PM advice is like watching a really bad sequel. There's all hype, no clarity. I'm sure you can fill pages and pages worth of feedback you've actually gotten as PMs, all of that which sounds very cool but means nothing. Be strategic, own the roadmap, you're the CEO. It's like someone gave you a Rubik's Cube and said, just figure it out. You should be able to figure it out. That's exactly what PM feedback looks like. Today, I hope we are going to turn that into a real script, a script that delivers a plan for you to help you unlock that potential of yours and helps you get you to the next level.
Hey,
So,
Tapan, we have a question coming in already, if you don't
yep.
mind. So Sakshi from the audience is asking, you mentioned that gaining trust and leading, can you share some techniques or examples of how you were able to achieve this?
If you hold on for a few slides, I have a complete section on trust. So we will get into examples and how you can unlock that. Few slides and it's
Awesome.
coming up.
Even better. Let's do it.
Okay, awesome. So growth doesn't actually happen in decks or specs. So that it's not something which growth happens in words. It actually happens with what's in your mind. It's a shift in your mindset. Uh, as I said, as I mentioned, I'm a huge movies fan. So an example is if you know who Peter Parker is. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. Um, it's the same guy before and after the radioactive bite. He's the same guy, yeah, but it's a different lens. He still gets punched every single day. But what is different after the radioactive spider bite is now he can actually dodge bullets and he can swing around New York City. Same guy, different lens, and you go watch Spider-Man, you don't go watch Peter Parker. So that's the narrative in terms of how growth is something which you can unlock in people's perspective. So let's talk through the framework which I use to be able to help people think about this. So the level up framework is that origin story. It is that, as I said, that radiation spider bite that unlocks that spidey sense in you. To me, great PMs have three superpowers: clarity, energy, and trust. And let's walk through each one of them. So Sakshi, your question on trust there's a complete section on this. Uh, let's start with clarity. Are we clear? We're just getting started. We aren't clear yet. Let's find that clarity. So at Mozilla, I have the responsibility to craft the AI strategy for all of Firefox. Whereas like Firefox has 205 million users, what does it mean to build a browser which responsibly delivers AI capabilities to users? So we weren't just trying to add features. We were trying to redefine what the browser could be. Privacy first, user choice, taking your digital life and your flows and supercharging it and making you productive. But no one was aligned at first. We all had different bets across the company. The vision was fragmented. So I put put in the hard work in terms of selling the vision. You don't sell a vision, as I said, with a deck or a document. You do it by walking leaders through what the pain the end users feel, what the possibilities are. Bring design into it, and you build a prototype, and you bring it to life. You let them feel what is going to actually be possible if we follow this strategy. It wasn't easy. It was really hard work. And we got alignment, not on our first try, on our third try. But when we did that alignment, we learned from all of the missteps. We not only did we align with the team, we aligned with the company board. We aligned with the company board in terms of this is what we are going to do to unlock that potential for all of our users. So that's what clarity does. Clarity doesn't arrive on day one, but when you get to clarity, it can turn scattered ideas into a unified momentum.
So I'm going to cheat a little bit and ask you a question.
Yep.
And skip the line because I can. It's great to sell a vision. It's awesome if you can have that. How do you balance that with proof and execution, right? I can go out and build pretty prototypes. I can use Gen AI, I can use Replit to go and say, hey, go build this. I can show that.
Yeah.
How do you balance that with hard on the ground real impact?
Yeah. So selling the vision is like you watching a movie trailer. You get excited by it, but then when you go actually see the movie, you want to feel that passion flow through. You want to see that execution. You want to see that joy that you actually got your money's worth out of it. It's the same thing. Just selling something, but not having the ability to follow through on that means it's a hollow promise. Leaders are going to see through that. And the next time you go sell a vision, but are unable to execute on what you have been trying to sell, they're not going to buy. So think of this as the yin and the yang. When you sell the vision, you have to also put in work to be able to realize the vision. And that comes through a lots of ups and downs. In fact, when you actually do realize the vision, it is probably not going to look like the vision which you sold. It is going to be a very different vision, but it is going to be based on your learnings. It is going to be based on what you've figured out as you went along the path. And that is what, in the end, resonated with the end users. And that is why you were able to deliver it. So leaders are aware of that what you're trying to do is the starting point of it. And if everything went well, that is what you would deliver. But not everything goes well. You are going to learn. You're going to pull back on some of those ideas. You are going to be more aggressive on some, less aggressive on the others. So it is that cousin, like the yin and yang of it, in terms of great execution needs a vision, but you are not going to have a meaningful execution if you have not sold the vision, because then you would just have scattered ideas which don't come together.
Yeah, that's a great point there for any PMs who are watching us, right? I think to use Tapan's analogy, it doesn't matter if the movie doesn't match the trailer as long as you like the movie. And if you come out of it and say, hey, I still like the movie, it wasn't exactly what the trailer said, but I still love it, I think you've succeeded.
Yep. So if I asked your team today, where are we headed and why are we doing what we are doing now? How many different answers would you get? That's a test. Great PMs, they don't just communicate updates. Like, they are the ones who engineer that alignment. They're the ones who bring everyone on the same page. They're the ones who align vectors. And how do they do that? They communicate the vision, the roadmap, the progress, the launch, the feedback, the outcome. They do all of that, not once, but continuously. They're always doing it. And you're not just informing people, you're reinforcing belief. You're reminding people of why we are doing. You're keeping every team member who's involved close to the why before they define the what behind the why. That's the difference between chaos and clarity. It's persistent communication. People, when they hear what you are talking about on an ongoing basis, they understand the progress, they understand the journey, and they come out of the woodworks to help you. So if you do one thing, I would say communicate the good, the bad, and the ugly. Communicate all of it and do it persistently and frequently, because that is what is going to tell the story of the journey and let you and give you permission to get to that destination.
I love the code there. I'm a big Harry Potter fan, so thank you for using that.
I'm a huge movie fan, so as in you'll see, there's a movie reference on all of every single slide.
All
I
the best
probably have
ones.
more than 10,000, Netflix ratings on contents, and I've been doing that for 20 plus years.
Wow, that is insane. That's a great thing. That's a great thing to know about Tapan. So awesome.
So, what's the most powerful thing you can say in a meeting? I think most folks feel it's the most powerful thing to actually have the answer. So it's not the answer that says, here's the plan. It's the question from a PM which actually probes deeper and asks the question, what problem are you truly solving? Sharp questions reset the room. They cut through the noise. They get everyone back to first principles. They get everyone thinking. Great PMs are not the ones who have fast answers. It's not what counts in terms of your ability to think on your feet and provide an answer right away. They are the ones who have thoughtful, disarming questions which shift the room from defensiveness to curiosity. I think you'll unlock more progress not by controlling the conversation, but by reframing the conversation. You feel the room's headed in one way, you ask a question, and the room entirely stops and thinks and decides, is that the same direction we need to move forward in, or do we need to reset and find a different direction? That's what the power of a sharp question is. This is one of my favorites. And I've asked this to my team multiple times. What's the last time you walked into a meeting genuinely expecting a decision and you actually left with one? I'm sure PMs and leaders on this call feel the pain that decisions never get done in meetings. But great PMs don't treat meetings as decision points. They treat them as confirmations. So if there's still debate in the room when you are sitting there trying to get to a decision, you are late. The real influence happens before anyone even joined the meeting. That influence happens in pre-read documents that you send out. Those are the ones that shape context for people to think about the problem. That the influence happens in quiet one-on-ones where individuals feel safe to object to what you might be proposing. It happens in follow-up conversations that stitch alignment across different teams together before the room even comes together. So your job is to not orchestrate that drama which actually happens in the decision room. Your job as a PM, as a great PM, is to produce that clarity one conversation at a time, such that the time when you enter that decision room or the meeting which is supposed to create that decision, it's already predicted. You already know the outcome. It is more that you've done your job and that it becomes a way in which everyone confirms what we've been thinking about in the direction that you want to move in. So any surprise in that room just kills trust. But what is worse is silence kills support. The silent people in the room who don't show up in support are the ones who are silently plotting against you. So the best influence you can actually deliver is the one which you find that alignment before that meeting started, not during that meeting.
I have a question of my own on this one, Tapan, is if you are a manager of PMs or a manager of teams of PMs in many cases, how would you use this same framework, right? You are not, as a PM, I can go and make all of the things happen. But if you are one or two levels removed, how do you still use influence to affect outcomes?
So that's actually a very good question. Influence is not something you build in a day. Influence is which you build in pieces of different granularity. In terms of, let's say you are a part of your mid-year planning or your full year planning, is when you plant the seed of an idea in terms of what you are thinking about. Then you start iterating on that idea, gathering user research. That is when you take a potential set of partners or influencers and send them that information without any expectation of it. You are just sending that information to align them or to inform them. Then you start talking to partners who you would need to be able to start building that dependence. So even before you actually are coming to this kickoff point saying, let's go do this, you've been silently moving these chess pieces around to start molding people's thinking around how to do this. And you're doing it not only for your organizational chain, but the more difficult piece is the folks outside of your organization chain who need to be influenced to be able to do that. In larger companies, product teams are not just laddering up to one individual. There are multiple product leaders you are laddering up into. So that influence is something which you need to be either building your active promoters in those organizations who feel that they are also going to be equally motivated to make this thing happen, such that they are promoting it in their organization. And the plan, when it comes together as a joint plan of these different folks from different organizations, all aligned in terms of materializing the company's North Star or the company's mission and why it ladders up to all of that rather than it being specific to a given organization. That's how you are silently building these bridges. And over time, these bridges have become so strong that the momentum of that carries you forward because every leader is looking to somebody on their team to be able to say, are you on this? Is this something you would do? And when they hear that alignment, everything moves forward. And that's how you actually get big ideas moving. Smaller ideas can move within an organization, but if you want to influence, be the great PM and influence those big ideas, you have to build these bridges across organizations and bring people and make this a joint accomplishment rather than a solo accomplishment.
I love that. Love that. Yeah. What's that saying which says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Go together. Spot on. So now let's talk about energy. At Meta, I worked on messaging. One of the biggest challenges which we had was how do we make messaging meaningful to users such that they felt that users were connecting to people they knew, not to machines. So one of the initiatives which I was working on was about launching a conversation feed in messaging platforms. Something that felt human, it felt alive, and it felt relevant because it had people you knew in those feeds. We had the smartest people on the idea. We had tons of resources, but the momentum stalled. Why? The energy was off. The team was unclear on the why. Leaders weren't excited. Leaders didn't show up to alignment conversations. So we paused. I reframed the problem, and after a set of iterations, got to a narrative around not building a feed, but building a conversational memory, something which helped you reconnect people to the people and communities they cared about, such that they felt the true value of a network of a social network, which actually helped you connect with others through messaging. We redesigned the narrative, we cut down unnecessary scope, and we set clearer rhythms. And then we started shipping, not because the roadmap had changed, but because the energy changed. People were excited about what this would do to unlock their relationships or their connection with their communities and their friends. They were excited to be able to go do this for millions and billions of people and not say we are building a feed. So great PMs help fuel that energy. They light that spark. And when that spark spreads, people join in and start becoming force multipliers into those outcomes. So to do that, sometimes you actually have to stop. You have to look around and you have to reset. And when you reset and start all over again, sometimes it gives you more momentum than ever to be able to accomplish those outcomes if you reset in the right direction. I have a question for the group. Do you remember the last spec you read? Now, be honest. Did you write that spec, the one which you just recalled? If you wrote that spec, you remember it because you wrote it. If it was not the spec which you wrote or somebody else did, you don't remember it. Now think about the last movie you saw. It might have sucked really bad, or it might have been a great movie, but you still remember the story. You still remember some of the characters. And you remember the moment it turned. You remember the twist. You remember the narrative. You remember the end. You know why? Because stories stick. Specs don't. No one's going to be able to recall a spec a week from now. Specs describe. Stories inspire. Your job is to care deeply and inspire people to go the extra mile, not just tell people what the product will do, but you have to tell folks why it matters, who is it for, and what magic it unlocks when it actually works. Stories do a really amazing thing. They activate emotion, and that emotion drives momentum. So yeah, specs matter. Stories move people. And when you move people, you move products, you move outcomes, and you get everyone on board to want to do more of the same thing. So next time, use a story to narrate a user story, a story which you might have heard in user research, or your own story, or a user you might have spoken to, their pain, use that to be able to narrate. Take a hypothetical situation in terms of you've shown them a solution and how are they reacting to it? How are they talking about how they unlock that outcome for them? I remember this one phone call, as in at GoDaddy, when I led the productivity business. Every month I would fly down to Tempe to sit in our call center for a full day to listen to customer calls. There was this one call I still remember. This lady in Las Vegas, this single mom with two children, calling in to get help on one of our products. And she was so emotional that the product which she was using, which my team had built, had unlocked the opportunity for her to work from home, run her own business, and be self-sufficient, and send her daughters to the things to things she wanted to send them to, and be able to do all of that herself as a small solo business. To me, those kind of emotional stories make you realize who you are building those products for. And those are the stories you want to be able to recall and bring those ideas or the solutions to, in terms of how you can do more of that for hundreds of millions of users. So when you want to inspire your teams and you use stories to inspire them, these stories stick. This is a phone call I had been on about 8 years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, but I still have this memory in my head in terms of that one person I helped. I'm sure there was millions of users we helped, but this is one person I felt I made her life better because of what I did, and I feel proud about it.
This is a great point here, Tapan. I love it. I think lots of PMs are under the fallacy that, hey, I need to bring lots of data and lots of stats and a lot of facts and figures. And yes, you need to do all that. But ultimately, the story is what moves the room or the person or the decision because it makes it relatable, right? Everyone can relate to this person with two kids, and then they can start looking at their own lives. And that's when that magic, that click happens. So I think that's a great example. Talking about energy, I think we need more energy in the room. So I do want everyone to ask more questions. Sakshi has a second question that I'll tell you right now, but I want everybody else to have that energy. So the question from Sakshi is, how much does a clear vision influence the energy in the room? In your experience, has a great vision ever lacked energy or momentum?
That's a great question. Clarity brings crispness. So a clear vision will bring crispness. But a vision also has the ability you to for you to latch on other ideas on top of it, because when something has momentum, everyone wants to hang their hooks on that idea, on that vision, to make their pet projects come to life too. And that's when bloat kicks in. And when that bloat kicks in, it No, it's physics. The more mass, the slower the movement is going to be, and that is going to drain that energy in terms of you moving forward. So one of the things which you will hear about further in a few slides is your ability to be able to keep that vision lean and the ability to say no, to be able to deliver on that. It is going to pain you in a very meaningful way to say no, because you will be probably saying no to someone who's a senior leader, somebody, something which is maybe a pet project of yours, a great idea. It is going to be very painful. But as a PM, to keep that energy up and to keep that clarity of that vision, you are going to have to be the holder of that decision to keep that lean such that you can deliver that and then go figure out what to do next rather than make it the vessel for everyone's ambitions to go forward.
Yeah, that's very astute. Um, the one place where I have seen this happen, Tapan, or where I've seen a great vision lack momentum is, and I've been at fault here as well, right? When I was at Lacework, I was building on this entire investigation and alerting framework for security incidents. I had this amazing vision. Hey, here's what we're going to do. Here's what it's going to look like, and here's this all the cool stuff. But then I looked around and I lost everyone. And the reason was, I said, hey, here's where we are. Here's the vision. There was no path to get there. There was no stepping stone. I didn't say we would do A and B and C. Like I didn't paint that picture. So it's like, okay, cool. We're going to build that big ivory tower, but how? How do we go from ground zero to there? And that's when I see lots of awesome visions actually fail because there is no path to go from current reality baseline to that vision.
Yeah. Uh, I'll use a parallel example. I'm a huge Lego fan. So you see these big giant Lego models,
Yep.
and you look at those big giant models, and like first you look at those models and you're like, this is going to be impossible to build. It is so beautiful, but it is going to be impossible to build. And then you unpack the box. There's a sequence number of packets which you have to work through, and then there's this magic instruction book which tells you one piece at a time how you're going to go. If you open up book packet number 16 before you open up packet number 2, you're going to be lost. You are not going to be able to connect those dots together. So the beautiful vision is amazing, but then you also have a plan. So if you follow that plan, that is how you actually get to realizing that vision. If you start doing things randomly or add things along as you go along, you're never going to get to that beautiful Lego which you are trying to build. Uh, and it's ironic that I have to teach my children that because they always get excited about that minifigure or that kind of like part which is in another box, and they want to open that all together, and you have to hold them down saying, patience, it will come in due time. But if you start acting on it right now, you're going to lose the plot for it altogether. And I have countless Lego sets for my kids sitting at home, not done because they got excited about a future step, and then the whole thing just came crashing down.
That is amazing. Yeah, I love Legos too. So love Legos, have young kids, totally relatable.
Uh, why do we overcomplicate things? Because somewhere deep inside a PM's mind, we think complexity makes me feel very intelligent and makes me feel like the smartest guy or gal in the room. But in product, complexity is a drag coefficient. It slows understanding, slows alignment, and slows the momentum. So your job as a PM isn't to explain how smart the product is. Your job is to make the product usable, explainable, buildable, and then sellable. So great PMs, they simplify the language, they simplify the flow, and they simplify the why. Uh, you've all heard of questions in Google interviews and whatnot, but I generally believe in one of these questions is like, can you describe what you are doing to your mom in 2 lines? Does she get it? It's an easy rule of thumb I use also for my teams, which is I give you one breath to explain what you're doing. If you cannot explain it to me in one breath and you run out of breath, and I have had people who've tried to hold their breath until they finish their thought, that doesn't work. you have to go simplify it.
I was
Either
going
you
to, I
are
was going to
an
have a
expert
wise,
swimmer or you have to simplify your vision.
yeah, I was going to crack a wise talk about how you did that during COVID and masking, but I won't ask you that.
It's no longer a problem during masking, but you get the point.
I do. That's awesome. Yeah, I love this. I think this is for me so far like the key learning is complexity's easy, clarity's hard. PMs cut through the fluff.
Yep. And then what is very equally important and telling is how who gets the credit when something goes well. Because we all know PMs get the credit when everything goes to hell in a handbasket. But who actually gets the credit when something goes well? It's a very revealing question. Great PMs pass that spotlight. They amplify others. They make those quiet contributors shine. So this is not about false humility. It's actually building a culture where people feel safe to lead, safe to challenge others, safe to stretch, and safe to be proud of what they've done. So leadership isn't about being the face of everything. It's about creating the space for others to shine. Because when people feel seen, they show up differently. And with that additional creativity and that commitment and more care, you get bigger outcomes. So great PMs are the ones who make the headline possible. They are not the ones who get the headlight, like the headlight shown on them. They are the ones who are holding that light so that it shines on somebody else. With that, I'm going to move to trust. That's the section we've been waiting on. So I mentioned this earlier, so when was the last time you actually said no, but it hurt you so bad that you were cringing that you had to say no? That's deep down inside. You knew you wanted to say yes, and it would be easier to say yes in the moment, but you said no. The truth is, the most important yes is the one which you are protecting by saying no to everything else. You have said yes to something, you have to protect it. If you keep saying yes to other things, you are not protecting the one big thing which you are trying to achieve. So you're most likely always being told that PM's job is to enable and accommodate every single thing which comes their way. That's true, but it's only to a point. PM's job is to deliver impact, and real impact comes from the person willing to draw the line. We all draw the lines when we do planning. But then when new things come up, we don't imagine that that line exists. So great PMs aren't blockers, they're editors. They're the ones who move those lines. They're like, okay, what needs to go above the line for this to come below the line? They are the ones who are editing all of these things. They are the ones who keep saying no to keep this focused. They also protect the team's sanity because if you say yes to everything, the team's silently cringing and saying there is no way we can do all of it, and then the outcomes start disappearing. So every time you say no with clarity and purpose, you're not just protecting the roadmap, you are reinforcing your belief in the impact which you've signed up to deliver and the people you're bringing along. You're a great PM when you protect your team and help deliver that impact. That's what great PMs do. They ship things which matter. Maybe another story, at GoDaddy, I was asked to lead a huge transformation on our productivity business. So the business was aimed at communicating, helping businesses communicate to their partners, to their consumers, through different channels. My ask was to double our revenue and 3x our users in 3 years. It sounded impossible. People were skeptical. People thought it was a trap, that this was a trap for us to fail. The roadmap was very ambitious and the market conditions were not easy either. But I knew that trust was not going to be built in the OKRs. It was not going to be an OKR which compared where we were in the journey as compared to our revenue potential and our user growth potential. It would be built in those gaps between those outcomes. When we were behind, when launches slipped, when metrics missed, that is, in those moments, I made it a point to show our work, share the updates, and reset expectations publicly. No spin, no hiding, just clarity, like no fluff. And that built a team that didn't just follow the plan, they believed in it, they delivered on it. I left 1 year into the journey to pursue another opportunity. Fun fact, the team persevered and delivered on that big giant outcome. I got messages from the team every year that the team hit their milestone, that they did it. That trust which we had built, that carried forward even in the absence of the leader. So great PMs are the ones who actually build that trust into the team. And even if they are not on that team, leave that trust in there for them to move forward and deliver those outcomes.
So what you've said so far, Tapan, has been slightly counterintuitive, right? On building trust. Like you've said, be honest, say when you're behind, when things go wrong. You are like being open, transparent, upfront, public
Yep.
about bad news, which is counterintuitive to say, hey, to gain trust, do cool stuff, to have awesome impact, succeed in all these ways. And you're saying almost quite the opposite of, um, hey, reset expectations, really show the bare raw stuff that's happening to gain trust. And I think as PMs, it's kind of hard to, because we are all logical, trying to marry that with the outcome. Can you give me a little bit more on that?
Yeah. So when you sound improbable, when you sound impossible in terms of the state of where you might be, the leaders you are communicating this to are not unaware of the situation. They have additional sources through which they are learning about the progress, they are learning about the impact, they are known these metrics. And these leaders, they were once in your place, they were once in your shoes. They know when you're bullshitting, they know when you're hiding things. They didn't get to where they are right now by not doing what you might be trying to do right now. What they're looking for is someone they trust, someone they can rely on saying, yes, there are going to be challenges, but I trust this team to be the one to deliver it. And trust is built on honesty and candor. Trust is not built on you showing with a green status light all the time. Trust is built when you show green when it truly is green, but when it is red or when it is yellow, you might actually even downgrade it to a red because you truly think that yellow is just temporary. So that is how you build trust, through honesty and humility, and feel compelled at times to ask for help. Most folks feel asking for help means they don't trust themselves to be able to go solve the problem. It is, leaders don't look at it that way. They're like, you need additional, the problem is more complex than what it was supposed to be, and we need to give you more help to get to that outcome. Because a leader also succeeds when you deliver on that outcome. If you were constantly positive about things and then something fell through the cracks at the last minute, that also violates that trust which you've been building with that leader. So it's perfect to actually be honest and humble and humble about what you are trying to achieve, and be transparent about that journey, and get help if you need, not sugarcoat it, because that is when this is not a single player job also, as in you are going to get into other opportunities within the same organization, solve bigger problems. A leader needs to know that somebody who they are entrusting that problem to is someone who will be real with them. And that is what builds trust. And that's what builds a durable career, because that's what you would go to saying, you might not be the subject matter expert on this problem, but I know you will figure out a way to go do it.
That's awesome. We have a question here from Andre. I don't quite understand it, but I'll read it to you anyway. Um, how does trust function? What are the subject and object of trust?
Hmm.
I'm not quite sure I understand that. So, Andre, if you can clarify the question a little bit more as a follow-up, that would be useful.
Yeah,
I'm
let's
not
wait
sure
for
I
the
followed that.
follow-up. I have a thought, but I don't know if I would answer Andre's question the right way or not. So let's wait for a clarification, and I'll maybe jump to a couple more slides, and we can come back to Andre's question.
Let's do that.
Cool. So do you always sometimes feel like your roadmap is solid, your priorities are clear, but still you keep getting stuck again and again and again? Like maybe a dependency team doesn't show up, maybe feedback loops are not coming through. Like everything feels truly unpredictable, and it is predictable at the same time. That's your signal as a great PM that something in the system is broken. So great PMs, they don't just solve problems, they solve patterns. They know something which might be a problem is going to be a recurring problem for them to go fix. And they go fix the root of the problem rather than just put that band-aid and move on. So if you're solving the same issues every week, you're not solving the issue, you're just firefighting. So you need to zoom out, look upstream, ask what structure or what ritual or what behavior is creating that problem, and you need to go fix that. Because when these systems are broken, everything built on top of it is always wobbling. And you're never going to find a stable way to be able to go get that outcome done, including trust. As in, trust built on a wobbly system is always going to wobble. It's never going to feel stable. So build a system so that teams stay unblocked, where these handoffs become clear and then momentum shows up. So this will help you ship not just faster, but this will help you fix the engine and help you make it ship faster for future outcomes also. So go slow now so that you can go faster rather than just go fast and realize that you've actually broken the foundation. This is my favorite line. I'm a huge Batman fan, and this line has always stuck with me. As PMs, we spend so much time to project confidence, that clarity, that leadership. But present isn't built on how we seem underneath. It's actually built on how we show up, how we make others feel, what we actually do when the tension is high and those decisions matter. If you're like the loudest person in the room, always the first to speak, always jumping in to defend something, eventually your presence starts to crowd others out. Great PMs don't lead with volume. It's not the volume which counts. They lead with presence. And what is presence? Presence is calmness when others are tense. Presence is clarity when things are not clear, when things are chaotic. People follow voices they trust. And trust is built by speaking when it matters and then landing it, not just speaking all the time. You need to be the one person people listen to when it matters. And your presence is going to be built on calm, conviction, and clarity, not performance outcomes. As an example I always use is wartime presidents. Uh, the Churchills of the world are the ones which people still refer to in terms of how they were calm in a world where everything was going to hell in a handbasket. There were bombs being dropped on Britain every night, London every night, but the the presence through which how you show up, how you motivate, how you engage, and how you lead is what actually made that difference. And that's why Churchill is Churchill today, because of how he led. And that's the presence PMs need to lead with. So to me, this connects all the three pieces. So this is what my level of framework is. So it's like clarity gives you alignment, energy gives you momentum, and trust earns you followership. This is what separates good PMs from great ones. So use this framework to unlock that PM inside you. And guess what? You can move from chaos to clarity, from motion to momentum, and from task to trust. Clarity, energy, trust. That's the shift in the mindset I've been talking about. That's what makes a great PM.
That is awesome. I love that. I love that.
So one ask I have of you is to look back and think, what will you do different tomorrow? Pick one thing, not all of these. Pick one. Maybe it's rewriting your narrative. Maybe it's figuring out how to communicate your vision in one breath. Maybe it's asking a sharper question. These small shifts done consistently will unlock transformation over time. And if this resonated with you, drop me a note on LinkedIn. Tell me what one thing you are going to do different tomorrow and commit that to yourself, to that new you that you intend to unlock. And that's how you're going to level up to become a great PM. Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. If you found this useful, follow me on LinkedIn. I write a weekly newsletter to help PMs unlock themselves, leaders unlock that thing in themselves, sign up for it. And most importantly, go back to your team, to your products, and lead with intention, because PMs don't ship products. They shape people, they shape teams, and they shape culture. And there's a great PM inside you, and you need to unlock that PM to make that shift possible. Thanks.
That is brilliant. Thank you so much, Tapan, and thank you so much for sharing that link there. One of the missions for Products That Count is to educate PMs and to give back to the community. So I'm so glad that you are doing that. We do have a couple of questions and also comments from the audience. Michelle says, great content. Thank you very much. Thank you, Michelle, for joining us. Appreciate that. Andre clarified his question, so I'm going to read that out to you now so we can help him or help them. So in an attempt to get down to first principles, from the perspective that trust is a function with inputs and outputs, what inputs does trust operate on and what are the outputs? For example, transparency, there's information you know, and you distribute the information as is for others to make their own call. Humble or curious, you have an opinion, but you are looking for other opinions. Inputs are all opinions, outputs are best solution. So for trust, what are the inputs and outputs? Yes, two questions. This was the first one.
Yeah. You already have, like, Andre, thank you for that question. You already have an amazing list of inputs. I think the list of inputs can be quite large. I think what matters to you as a PM is what are those outputs you combine those multiple inputs into to be able to drive progress forward. I would say there are three very important outputs you need to be thinking about to build that trust. One is actually having a point of view. Most PMs don't have a point of view. They come up with an opinion and they try to incorporate that opinion, which is inclusive of everyone. You need to have a point of view. Polarizing a point of view is fine too, but you need to have a point of view. Second is you need to be able to consult with everyone, incorporate their thinking, incorporate that data, but you need to be the one to make a decision. Don't leave the decision onto somebody else. Trust is built in you communicating that this is the decision you would recommend and why, and not leaving somebody else to make the decision. Because when you leave it to somebody else to make the decision, you are also leaving the potential downstream impact of it not working onto somebody else rather than taking it onto yourself. So as a PM, you are the owner. So you make those decisions and you live by them. And the third one is purely execution. It's like you have to be the one driving that forward momentum. You bring people together, you make decisions, but you have to act on them. You don't act on them, don't pick a direction and move, nothing happens. A lot of PMs mistake momentum with motion. Motion does not mean momentum. You could be stationary and you could have motion. You need forward momentum. You are the ones who are going to drive that forward momentum. So action is that important piece of that puzzle in terms of how you drive that outcome. You might not get to the outcome you chose to get to, or you might not succeed, but you at least tried trying to get everyone to that destination and failed and learned something and get another opportunity possibly to go try it again. But not moving is a sin as a PM.
Exactly. Inaction is the worst thing that a PM can have. I think sitting on anything, decision, question, information is the worst thing. Thank you for that. One more question from Andre. How do you measure trust and what does it look like?
Trust is not something you measure on an OKR or a dashboard. Trust is something you measure in conversations. Trust is something which you measure through responsibilities you are given. Trust is something when people lean and lean towards your point of view in terms of a decision, even though they might have a dissenting point of view. A leader or a cross-functional partner or a report who looks at you and says, I have a different point of view on this, but I trust you on this, and I'm going to move forward with your point of view or your input or your ask, is that definite is the measure of trust, in terms of when someone is willing to take that leap of faith because you have built trust with them for every single day leading up to that day, to help them make that decision in terms of, I am going to trust you with your intuition, with your craft, with your experience, rather than trust myself, is that definition of trust. And that's not easy to earn. That takes a lot of effort. That requires you to show up on every single day to make that happen. And that is what trust is. It's not something which you can track on an OKR dashboard. It's that silent conversation or that confirmation you get from a peer, a report, or a leader who's willing to lean on you, take a bet on you, and said, I trust you, and I know you're going to make it happen.
That is awesome. We are at time here, so I'm going to ask you one last question, Tapan. I'm going to go rogue and put you in the hot seat a little bit, and I'm going to say, hey, you shared a lot of awesome things today, things that all of us can learn from and do tomorrow. I'm going to ask you to pick one, which is the one thing, and like you said, take a stand, communicate your stance. Which is the one that you think is the most astute, most important?
So between these three pillars, clarity, energy, and trust, I would start with trust, or I would pick trust, because the other two can be derived from trust. In the absence of trust, the energy or the clarity is not going to be not going to matter. So if you had to pick one, I would lean on building trust. And trust is something which takes forever to build and a minute to dismantle. So you build trust, you can build the energy, you can build the clarity, but you don't build trust, the others are not going to show up.
It's like climbing a mountain but coming down a slide. That is awesome. So this is a level up framework. If you want to be a great PM, try and do one of these things tomorrow. But if you have to start somewhere, start with trust. Tapan, that was brilliant. Awesome questions from the audience. Thank you for answering those. Thank you for sharing what I would say is some amazing wisdom with all of us. For anyone who is joined us live, thank you so much for joining us. I do this every month. So we have a webinar on a different product or product management topic every single month. I'm super excited for what's coming this summer. If you're watching this on YouTube later on, please hit Tapan or myself up on at PDC, at Tapan's newsletter, with the QR code that he had. We'd be happy to answer questions over LinkedIn. Thank you for joining us. It's been a pleasure, Tapan. Thank you, everyone else. I will catch you on the next one. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Take care.